This is Katie, co-host of Coffee with Keith and Katie. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Madeline, host of Crowned and Dangerous here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come back to check out my show, Crowned and Dangerous, where Jessica and I talk about our time in the pageant world. A new show comes out bi-weekly on Thursdays. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Crowned and Dangerous. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy, and you probably are too. I'm Lindsay, and I'm here today with Emily and Elisabeth, and we wanted to talk about something fun and summery this week. So, I was thinking about how I have to send Aurelia to camp a few times this summer, actually. She's going to be going to a church camp, and she's going to be going to a fun thing where she has to learn an instrument for a week, and then she also does an acting thing every summer as well. So, yay, lots of fun. But you remember when we were going to camp and we were little, and it was kind of basic, the same thing each time. Everyone kind of had the same thing, unless you went to band camp, which was also a thing.
Did not do the band camp thing. But no, I definitely did go to summer camp a couple times when I was growing up, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there was also like a winter camp, and well, anyway, so I was thinking how fun it would be to have a camp that adults could go to, because now we've got money and we've got the
right.
possibility of sending ourselves to camp, but
Or
that adults could go
do.
to that were either nerdy camps or geeky camps, and what that would possibly look like. And of course, someone's got to have this, right? Someone has to have had
right.
a geek camp or a nerd camp idea. And of course there is. I did find one, and only one. I Googled and Googled and Googled, and the only one that showed up was something called Epic Nerd Camp in northeastern Maryland in Ramblewood. And it actually looks like they've had a few different years where they've had to do different sites. And of course, there's all kinds of interesting logistics of that. But Elisabeth and Emily and I are going to talk about what our camps would be like if we were to have our own nerd camp or geek camp, as it may be.
Yeah. So, but first, Elisabeth's going to do her gaming corner.
Yes. So obviously E3 was this past weekend, and there was obviously a lot going on. And I'm just going to try and touch briefly on the games that really stuck out to me. The two broadcasts that I really watched in depth was Bethesda and Microsoft. I saw snippets of the others, but those two were the ones I watched the full ones. And Bethesda didn't have a whole lot that appealed to me, but they did have two that struck me as really interesting. One of them is called a new game coming out called Ghostwire Tokyo by Tango Gameworks, which is the team behind The Evil Within. And Ghostwire Tokyo is not a survival horror like The Evil Within, but it's going to be still very spooky and creepy and have a lot of similar aesthetics to that. It was also introduced by Ikumi Nakamura, who designed Bayonetta. She is an awesome lady. Definitely go check her out. She is just amazing. Everybody is falling in love with her for her little intro. But the whole concept is basically the story is people have basically just randomly disappeared in Tokyo, and there's no real explanation for it. And the player character has to go through and kind of figure out what's going on. And there's all these paranormal elements that are happening and going on. There's a lot of spirits around, and some of the spirits are friendly and will help you, and some of the spirits are not friendly, and obviously you have to fight them. So I'm really interested for the whole story to play out of, what happened to these people and what's going to happen. And then the second game that they had is called Deathloop. It's about two assassins known as the Captain and Jules, and they're stuck on this mysterious island known as Black Reef, and they're trying to kill each other and different targets, all while stuck in a time loop. And from the trailer, it seems like they both have different perspectives on what's going on. So the captain is very kind of pessimistic. He views this as a prison and like he's trapped. And Jules is like, oh, I am free. And, I kind of like this. So I'm kind of interested to see like how this is going to play out. Like, do you have to choose who you're going to play with, or will the gameplay like kind of flip flop around, and will you play as both at different points? I'm not sure yet, but it looked really, it sounds really interesting and unique, which is sometimes hard to find.
The time loop thing is really intriguing to me. For some reason, I love stuff that messes with time. I don't know what it is, but it's just so cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now my favorite presentation was by Microsoft. They got a trailer for The Outer Worlds, which I am so psyched to see. I talked about it in my Gaming Corner post on social media. If you somehow haven't read it, go check it out. But it's put out by Obsidian, whom I absolutely love. So I'm very excited to play that once it comes out on October 25th. They also displayed Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And I'm cautiously optimistic because, the trailer did look really cool. The gameplay looked awesome, but it is being developed and put out by EA, which has a bad reputation, and they have a bad reputation for a reason. So
with their last Star Wars game.
So I want to believe, but I'm gonna be keeping my eye on that. And we also had a preview of Cyberpunk 2077, which has been a long hyped game, and Keanu Reeves got to come out and talk a little bit about it because there's a character in the game that is designed and voiced by him.
Oh, cool.
So he got to talk a little bit about the character that we're going to play. We're basically like playing this mercenary person in this seedy underbelly of this cyberpunkish dystopian future, and where body modifications are just like kind of the norm. So it's kind of like Alita Battle Angel, where people are just kind of cyberizing themselves. So it looks really cool, and again, like pretty unique. And I can't wait to see what that's going to be about. And we also got a little teaser for the game that is that is basically the brainchild of Hidetaka Miyazaki, who is known for Dark Souls, and George R.R. Martin, who is doing everything he can to procrastinate writing the next book in his series. And it is called Elden Ring. And there's not a whole lot we know about it yet. We got a really cool teaser trailer with some interesting cinematics. So I'm really kind of interested to see what more is going to be there, especially knowing Miyazaki's background with Dark Souls. Is it going to be similar to that, or did he take that in a totally different direction? We're going to have to obviously wait and see with that. But those were pretty much all of my highlights from E3, and I'm excited to see what the gaming world is going to bring next. It looks like 2019 and 2020 are shaping up to be pretty exciting.
Awesome. Very cool. All right, well, I guess I'll hop in and do my camp idea. So probably one of my favorite fandoms that I'm a part of is Harry Potter. So of course I have to bring up like how super awesomely cool would it be if there was like a week long, or maybe even like 2 weeks long, Harry Potter summer camp for whoever. Like, it could be for kids. It totally would be great for kids, but it could be super fun for adults too. Because like what you could do is there could be like 4 different cabin sets, and those would be your houses. But when you apply for the camp, you also do like a quiz, and it sorts you into whichever cabin group you go to. So that's your house. And then you compete throughout the camp and have, it's like a house cup tournament sort of thing. Well, and I think it would be super cool for each house to have each house could have a scavenger hunt that they're trying to complete by the end of the camp, and then whoever does the best at the scavenger hunt gets a certain amount of points, and that goes into their house tournament score. And then whoever wins at the end has a big ceremony, of course, like Harry Potter does, and a giant feast, and of course the food would be amazing because it's Harry Potter.
Well,
yeah, absolutely. And I keep imagining this on the grounds of Hogwarts, but I also keep imagining it in the woods of America. because that's where I went to camp when I was growing up. So I'm like weirdly mishing it together. But like during
it could be like in the woods, like that surrounds Hogwarts.
Like the Forbidden Forest or the Black Forest. Yeah, I mean it totally could be. And so it could be set up kind of like that, and then you like there's like spooky stories at night where you just sit around your house campfire and like talk about different stuff, and like throughout the week we could have like a class schedule and do like maybe if you went to Hogwarts during the school year, you had certain classes you had to take and you didn't have room in your schedule. I'm such a Ravenclaw. And so you're like, oh, I get to take this class now too. Cool, super awesome. And so it would be like auxiliary classes or ones that maybe Hogwarts wasn't able to offer that that they can offer for a short time at a camp, but they couldn't do for like a full year.
Like workshops.
Yeah, like workshops kind of stuff.
Go to workshops.
Yeah,
exactly. And definitely there would be Quidditch, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think that would be super fun. I would be there, man. That'd be great.
I go between the two ideas. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Lindsay. What were you saying?
I struggle between the two ideas of whether it would be like school or like camp.
I know.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing I'm trying to get over. Is like, how can I make it more of a summer camp?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you'd have to really imagine like what camp would be like for Hogwarts students.
Yes, and that's what I was trying to think of. Is like, what do wizards do in the summertime?
Yeah.
Like,
and so it'd have to also be like, and I was thinking it could be something where you go with your child,
Sure. Oh, it totally could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then like the adults do different things during some of the day, and the kids do different things during some of the day, and they come together like for meals,
right?
Or they have like
and
parents versus kids Quidditch or something. Oh my goodness, that would be sweet.
And it'd have to be like totally safe if your kid gets sorted to a different house than you.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
So that would be an element that would have to be like cut and firm too. If you get sorted Ravenclaw and your daughter gets sorted Hufflepuff, that's it. You're good. You will see her, or you could also like pick out obviously the workshops that you do. So if you get sorted Hufflepuff, but you and your child both want to take a.
There was like one of the summer camps I went to had like an option to do like horseback riding or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there could be like a magical creatures thing where you like learn how to train magical creatures, like different than the Hogwarts class, but like where you get to more of a an extracurricular activity sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What it could be based on is like Muggle animals, because like obviously during school they're focused on the magical animals, but then they could bring in like the more normal animals, like, hey, this is a horse and this is how we take care of it. This is how we ride it, and these are rabbits and this is how we take care of them.
Goodness.
These are goats,
Arthur Weasley would
yes.
all
so
over
it would
that.
almost be like summer camp for Hogwarts students, but in
the Muggle world.
But in like Muggle studies. It's like Muggle studies but for summer camp.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
So you could have some magical
Muggle house repair.
Yeah. So you could have like different like magical things, but then you could have like different Muggle learning things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that are more
be
practical.
Cool.
Right. Mm-hmm. But like there could be both too. You could have two separate camps where it's like Muggle learning camp, and then oh man, you could even do like Squibs learning about magic people.
Yep.
You could
there's
go
so many
really
possibilities
anywhere. Yes, there's so many possibilities.
That's why Harry Potter, like the world of Harry Potter, is so cool because it's like built into the world we already know.
Right.
That's why I love it. So, yeah, I mean that's my idea. Someone steal it and make it.
Right. Well, and I've even like been sitting around thinking like, how do you create something like this? Like, other than going out and renting the place to have a camp for a week or 2 weeks or whatever,
right.
It would have to be like someone who would have the know-how to do something like a convention type focus.
You'd have to, and it would have to be like an extended convention kind of thing, because you'd have to have the personnel to do all of the workshops. You'd have to have people to staff the food and the cleanup and all of the, even probably some kind of like safety people just in case stuff happens.
Yeah, first aid and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like a nurse or doctor on campus.
Right. I think the only problem I potentially see with even like renting a place for a Harry Potter camp would be that you would want to have things set up pretty decently before people came.
Yeah.
Because setting up or imagining something for like a Quidditch match
right
in a regular camp,
you'd need a big field. Like
yeah,
a big field.
yeah, you would. And then, you know, like I tried really hard not to like look at other ideas about camp because you would want to. I don't want to steal any ideas from this amazing epic nerd camp or even steal anyone's ideas. But you'd have to find a way to create a snitch. You'd have to create a way to do that. And I know people have done it. Like, I know it's a thing. So
yeah, it would just be a lot of logistics and behind the scenes. Like, okay, how do we make this work and make it consistent so that everybody enjoys themselves and has a great time?
Yeah.
So this week on Geek on Fleek, I decided I wanted to talk about the essential things you need to make sure you bring to a convention, because it is about time to start thinking about it. Now, we need to plan where we're going. We need to plan how we're getting there. We need to plan all kinds of things. And if you're like me, you have a calendar or a planner or something where you're always trying to make sure that you have it all planned out as to where you're supposed to go. So, you know, November, I've got stuff I need to be doing, and in October and September, and then all kinds of other little things that I need to make sure happen, such as making sure that prosthetics get done for face things that I actually think I'm finally going to cosplay. But if you are not someone who's cosplaying and you're going to a convention, or even if you're a parent of someone who's going to a convention, it's important to make sure you know that you have the right things all set aside so that they're going to have the best experience, that you're going to have the best experience you could possibly have. So I found an article from 2012 and one from 2018. And I always think it's an interesting phenomenon that when we were little, or when I was little anyway, and I think I'm the oldest out of us all, I didn't go to any conventions. There really weren't any conventions. They kind of seemed to pop up after I graduated from high school, in my area anyway, in the Midwest. So I found these lists and I wanted to talk about them because I think it's really interesting to make sure you have all the right stuff. And believe it or not, most of the lists actually show up as pretty similar things. So number one, you want to make sure you have comfortable shoes. If you are not a cosplayer, even if you are a cosplayer, you're going to want to try and trick those bad boys out so that you make sure you have comfortable shoes to wear. Because walking around 30,000 steps in a day is not all that great if you're wearing heels the whole time. Number two, you're going to want to make sure you have cash. And yes, lots of different vendors, different things at the convention are going to be able to use an app, or you're going to be able to pay for things using your phone. But cash is key when you're paying for a vendor. So, artists that are selling their own stuff, or people who are selling even little wares, necklaces, the kind of things that you're going to want to buy, you're going to want to make sure that you have cash to pay for those things. And, you're really going to want to know how much money you're going to want ahead of time too, because you don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little. You can never be sure. So that's a learning experience. Number three, a water bottle. Of course, you're going to need to hydrate, but you're also going to want to make sure that you know what the regulations are at the venue you're going to, because some of them don't really want you to have anything to drink when you come in, because, of course, they want you to buy their stuff there, but a lot of times water bottles are still going to be okay. Number four, so this one's kind of interesting because it's actually a power strip or charging tools for your phone. So nobody wants to have a dead phone, and a power strip would be good because what happens at a convention is you go in and you are there all day, your phone is dying because you're using it to look up everything and to make sure you're getting to the right panels and to get into the right stuff, and your phone's dead. And you're in a convention center, so there is outlets everywhere, but someone is probably camping out right in front of it, right next to it, because they've already done the exact same thing that you've done, and their phone's dead too. So if you have a power strip with you, and they do make those cool little cube ones now that are like, they're really easy to I mean, just one of those fun contraptions. As long as you're sure it'll be safe, everyone can plug their stuff in. You would be a hero to be able to do that. So that was number 4. Number 5 is an extra bag. Do you know how many times I've been to the convention and I haven't had a way to hold all of the goods and wares that I've purchased? And friends of mine, too, have just been like, oh, no, what am I going to do? I need to make sure that I have enough. I need to get they've bought bags there just so that they would be able to carry all of their stuff. So number 6, this one's very important, deodorant or fragrance tools, anything so that what it's called is the convention funk, so that people don't smell you more than you'd like them to. And number 7 is important too, immune system boosters. So even people who work at conventions need to boost their immune systems too, because so many people at the same age in a small area, pushed up against each other, walking to the same places, coughing, sneezing in closed areas, you're going to want to make sure that you are on your immune system and that you're working it's not working harder than it needs to. Also, germ killers. So even like a little bottle of hand sanitizer, just in case someone does cough or sneeze on you, that's a good idea. Number 8 is a safety mobile app. That is something that you would want to know that you can post, that you'd be able to. A lot of conventions have their own way of contacting the safety department, so that's extremely important. Number 9 is a sewing kit or fashion tape, especially if you are cosplaying. You're going to want to make sure, because everybody's always got fashion wardrobe malfunctions. It is not just a thing that happens to Jennifer Lopez. It is something that happens to all of us, and you're going to definitely want to make sure that you are able to take care of that. The amount of times that I have seen someone come to a convention and have a absolutely life-saving safety pin are uncountable. And then, there's a few other basic things like snacks. If you're going to want to have granola bars or something to snack on, because it can get a little bit pricey depending on how they get the food in at any of the conventions that you might go to. So you're also going to want to have Sharpies, maybe 1 Sharpie or 2 Sharpies, just in case. The people who wrote this part were really optimistic that people would be able to sign something if you saw someone walking to or from where they're going. That's not necessarily terribly likely, but it is good to be ready. And of course, you're going to want a camera. And this last one was probably my favorite, especially because it's summer. Number 14 actually said sunscreen. Now, that I thought was funny because, of course, you always want to wear sunscreen. You always want to make sure you protect your skin. But this particular blogger was talking about how you need sunscreen to put on during the day before you get to the convention, and then after the convention when you're walking home or walking back to wherever you parked your car. Because let's be serious, some of us don't see the sun as much as we want to, and we don't protect our skin as much as we want to either. So that's Geek on Fleek.
And now my idea was a little bit different, not really necessarily focused on one fandom, but kind of trying to encompass all different kinds of geek and nerd things.
Okay.
Because when I went to summer camp, I didn't really enjoy it that much. Part of it was because we didn't have AC, and I'm very sensitive to heat, and I don't like that, and I don't enjoy it.
Man.
Yeah, it really is. Even in northern Wisconsin, it gets hot.
It does.
And when you have no AC, it's really bad. So,
yep.
And I do fully realize the irony of me willingly moving down to North Carolina. But in my defense, Wisconsin does reach the 80s and 90s in the summer.
It does.
Just as it does here. The only difference is we do experience a little bit longer summer, but our winters are really not bad. So it's not that bad of a trade-off to me.
It sounds like one of those trumped the other. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. It's kind of similar here in Washington too. Like right this week, it's going to be, it's gotten up into the 80s and 90s. This past week here, but the winter it does not get that cold. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so
I will hold on to the winter for both of you.
That's fine. That's fine.
But honestly, like one of my favorite things to do before I actually started going to camp was when I was a little bit younger. I did this thing that was called College for Kids. It was hosted by like local community colleges, and you would go in and you would just sign up for different classes and they would run. I remember like one year I would take like cake decorating, and then I would go to like do a little forensic class, and then I'd go do web design.
Oh, fun.
And yeah, it was all kinds of like little different things. Some not always necessarily career oriented, but still just fun and informative and educational. And so I kind of structured mine a little bit more like that than a straight up camp. And also to try to account for a lot of different nerdy things. So I was thinking of having 3 different teams. One would be like a science team, a science and tech team, where campers could do like experience and they could learn different things. I could have classes and stuff like that. And I mean, could be like a whole range of things. It could be hands-on chemistry. It could be programming. It could be graphic editing and design, or like anything within the science or tech realm, like you could find in the science team. Okay. And then for the gaming team, you would have a setup where you could either play solo, or you could team up with people, or you could go online and play. But basically you could have a whole range of games, and like whatever you did in-game counted towards different achievements for the whole team. And then there could be a tournament for using like a fighting game. You could really use any fighting game for that. You do Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur, Killer Instinct, like any fighting game you could use for the tournament. And, you know, basically just kind of coalesce your little gamers in that corner. No matter what game you play, like there could be an outlet for you there. And then you could have an artsy team where you could do things like film theory and writing, and characterization could be discussed and dissected. You could have like little mini TED Talks. You could write essays, write little creative writing pieces. You could do performances. You could work on cosplay stuff and then do like a little cosplay competition. So like, you know, contained in each of these groups, there are different things that I think would speak to different types of geeks. And then overall, throughout the whole camp, there are little achievements for each team that will add up for like things that individuals could do like by themselves, or they could do as a group or as a team. But whichever team can get the most achievements by the end of the camp wins the whole thing.
That sounds really fun. Like I would.
So
I would
like
who
will win this week? Will it be the science team or the artsy team or the gamers? Like who will come out on top this time?
I would seriously have a hard time like picking which team to be on, because like
me too.
I love the sciencey stuff, of course, but like I also really love the artsy stuff, and like I'm not super good at gaming, but gaming is so much fun, and it's something that I don't get to do a lot of. So if I went to a camp, I would want to go to camp to do something that I don't get to do a lot of all the time.
I know. Like I was coming up with these ideas, and I'm like, wait, which team would I even want to be on? I honestly can't even decide for myself, because they're all things that I would want to do.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I really like
that. If you have them separated for those 3 different ones, though, I don't know that I would want to go to that camp.
Oh no.
Mostly because, hold on though, where would the cosplay fit? Where would like the
under
sewing
artsy.
and
artsy
oh, okay, so that's me then.
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. So I mean, because
I was trying to think. You had tech and science and gaming, and I was like, where would I fit? That
because
artsy.
The artsy would be included with like essays, writing, and acting, and all that stuff, right?
Oh gosh.
Yep.
All right. Just
and like you don't have to do, and like you don't have to
do.
Yeah, if you don't have to like do every little thing for like that's involved with your team. You basically just like focus on what you want to do. So like if you wanted to just do cosplay stuff, then you go in and you just do cosplay stuff, or you could like sit in on a TED Talk if you wanted to. I call them TED Talks. That's
the element of learning something, and especially when you go to a convention and you have a 1 hour talk or like a 1 hour panel
discussion.
That's it. But being in a camp or being able to like go to the same place to hone those interests and to hone any skills that you want to, that would be the best part of it, is being able to say, okay,
Yeah.
I've got this amount of time to go to do this, and if I want to focus more on it, I can, or I can also do something else too.
Yeah.
Or a lot of things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Cool.
that was my idea, that I kind of wrote myself into a corner because now I really want it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't
That's the point,
exist.
though. Like,
Yeah.
It would be super duper fun. Oh man.
okay.
I would have to go like 3 separate weeks to do all 3
do
different
To
each
do
of
all
things.
the different things, of course.
Yes.
There we go. We figured it
And that's
out
kind of
now.
the idea of a camp too, is you go back each year because you had
True.
such a good time the first time. So
That's
Yeah.
true, definitely.
But you can also do different things each year and have a
Exactly.
completely different experience.
of course.
But still a good experience, hopefully.
Yep. All right, so now we'll do. It's time for periodically scientific, and the thing that I found, it's kind of a scientific news that popped up. This is this article I found on the ABC News website. It's more of an ecology thing that's going on, and it's part of. So it's in the Gulf of Mexico. There is what's called a dead zone, where the water itself holds too little oxygen to sustain marine life. So there's actually nothing that lives in that area of the Gulf of Mexico. And it's really weird to like think about that, because you would imagine, like, if you've seen pictures of the Gulf of Mexico or anything like that, like, you know that everything. If you've seen pictures of it, it just looks so beautiful and lush, and there's no it just looks so full of life, and like to imagine there being a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico just seems really strange.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, that's part of the thing that, like, kind of terrifies me about the ocean, because, like, it looks so nice and pretty, but, like, under the surface, you really don't know what's going on.
Right. I know. And, like, it's crazy. It's almost like outer space, but on our own planet. So.
And I think I read somewhere that we've explored more on outer space or more on one of the planets than we have of our own oceans.
All right, we're going to have to pause real quick. Pause the recording and then start again. Yeah, it is kind of scary to think about, like, not knowing so much about what is part of our own planet, and yet we know so much about space. And I mean, still there is even a lot we don't know about space, but it's almost like we're more intrigued about going to space than we are figuring out what's in the ocean. I don't know. Anywho, back to the Gulf of Mexico thing. Like, so this dead zone has been there, but it has not been this big before. They're predicting it's going to be a near record size, almost 8,000 square miles, so roughly the size of Massachusetts. And it's said by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They said that a major factor contributing to the dead zone is because of the abnormally high amount of rainfall in the Mississippi River watershed. And so a lot of that rainfall has just kind of come down through the Mississippi River and just splooshed into the Gulf of Mexico, which is where the river lets out. And it also led to record amounts of water carrying fertilizer and other nutrients downriver because of all the rainfall and all the flooding on all those farms. It just took it all down. And so since all of those fertilizer nutrients feeds the algae in the river and then into the Gulf of Mexico, all of those algae feed on the nutrients, and then they die and decompose on the seafloor, using up all of the oxygen from the bottom up, because they fall on the seafloor and then they decompose, and that uses oxygen to decompose along the coasts of Louisiana and Texas down there. And so just looking at this article, like I said, from ABC News, it says that the low oxygen, which is another term for that, is hypoxic. The area, like I said, is about 8,000 square miles almost. It's about 7,800 square miles, so about the size of Massachusetts or Slovenia, you could say, if you're more familiar with European countries. But a Louisiana-based team has been studying it, and they predict that it's going to be 7,800 square miles in the near future, which is crazy. That's humongous. So they're going to be measuring it in July. They take a cruise every year. This team does, from the Louisiana University's Marine Consortium. So the people who are studying marine biology and ecology at those universities, they take a cruise and they measure this. And the record set was in 2017 when it measured 8,776 square miles, which is a little smaller than the country Turkey. So we'll see how big they measure it being now once they do their cruise in July. It's just crazy because, the rainfall was a natural event that happened, but then all of this fertilizer that got washed down was the problem, I guess, it seems like. So, I mean, not to say that fertilizing is a bad thing necessarily, but it's also, you got to be conscious about how you do it and, what the effects are after you're, or, like if something catastrophic were to happen, like a big flood, what happens to that fertilizer?
Yeah.
Man. All right, let me see. What else? I just want to finish out the article and make sure I'm not missing any important things.
I think what's so interesting about that is that it's a different kind of, it's having a different effect on different kinds of things. Because, the fertilizer is obviously helping the plants on land. And, we've read all of those articles as to whether or not the fertilizer is actually good for us and what it's doing to our health and those things. But to find out that it being washed into that area of the Gulf of Mexico is making it so that there's not enough oxygen.
Right.
That's
it's crazy because, and like normally there's algae there that just feeds on whatever food is there, and then they get like overfed and they die. Mm-hmm. And since there's so much of it when they get overfed, they decompose and use up more oxygen than they had been using.
I kind of want to look at a map and find out where that area is now, because I was watching on the map when we went on the cruise as to where we were in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, sure,
we went straight across it. And
you could have gone right close to it, actually.
Yeah, and you actually can see algae on the ocean.
Sure.
Most of the time. I don't remember, any point in time where there wasn't any algae, but I do remember a point in time where we weren't really seeing very much life at all. No birds, no flying fish. We were looking specifically for dolphins at the time, so it was interesting when one day we didn't see anything and the next day we did. So
that is interesting. It could have, you could have been sailing right over that spot.
Right.
And there's a video along with this article. I can actually put this article with the post
cool.
for the episode. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. So should I get to talking about my camp?
Go for it.
Okay. Of course, I don't ever want to leave anybody out. So I'm worried that any camp idea I could possibly have would have some kind of exclusion. So it's interesting that you guys talk about necessarily a Harry Potter fandom or having the different groups, different teams to work with. But I was thinking more on the lines of LARPing and having quests, you mentioned scavenger hunts. I thought that was a really cool idea. But I would want to make sure that it's just anybody can go to this camp, and that then there could be certain quests or plans throughout the course of the day. And I really would want to be the person who was planning all of this, because I'm not a terribly organized person myself, but I do understand the benefits of an outline and making lists, and even knowing someone who would fantasize about having a camp like this or having a convention like this would be someone who creates those lists and creates these things in their head just to dream about it and to make it happen. So do you guys know what LARPing is?
I've heard
Yes.
the term, and I totally forgot
Live
what
action
it is.
role play.
Oh, live action role play. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, most people know about it from a movie called Role Models, where
Okay.
the young man in it is really into this fake world that they created, and they have different people who are in charge of each kingdom. They come together and they have an epic battle. And when I was in high school, I did do a little bit of something that was very like, I want to say it was called Shogun, where we actually, some people did dress up and have, safe weapons to use against each other.
Oh,
and then
sure.
I would want there to be like NPCs or, non-player characters that would have a specific certain script that they would say in response to whatever was happening in front of them.
That would be
So
super fun.
I would want like a choose your own adventure, choose your own thing.
Oh, that
to
sounds
be
like
able
That
so
to
much
sounds
have.
fun.
amazing.
Because I love
so much
like
fun.
the choose your own adventure books when I was little, but
Right.
to like actually have it set out where I could do it, like I could go to different people and get like a quest or get
Right.
a choice and stuff like that. That would be fun.
I mean, I would have to combine so many different aspects of like geocaching and, Pokemon Go has the app where you have all these different real locations for battles and for finding different animals. I'm sorry, Pokemon. Oh my gosh. So, and all of those things like combined into one epic production would be so hard, and there'd be so many like things to learn how to do for the next year and to perfect and to get better each year. But it would be such a rewarding experience for the people who were able to like watch it
Yeah.
happen and then to also participate. So I think that's like, I would really want to encompass like everyone and make sure that they was able to really touch on everything. But can you imagine like not only having that, but also people to do like D&D or playing any amount of role-playing games and LARPing, and
That would be so much
the
fun.
possibilities are just endless. And
Yeah.
it would be hard to really choose one thing. It would have to have like a theme each year or a particular focus, and then to be
Yeah.
able to perfect it each time too. It would be
Yeah.
such a fun learning experience for just a group of nerdy, geeky adults to get into.
Yeah, because like you learn a little bit more every year about it, and
Right.
and then
And
you'd
how
also
to get better, how to feed that many people, how much money it costs to
yeah. Well, and
take
then
care
even
of
also
everyone.
like because you would want to have different like stories going on too, so you wouldn't want it to be like the exact
Right.
same like quest line.
Yeah.
every single
So you'd have to have writers
like
for each
several
year.
things going
Yeah.
at once. Yes. And then not only that, but you also want anyone to be able to participate. So it would have to be affordable. It would have to be accessible.
Right.
All these things would have to be in place.
Yeah, that would take a ton of planning, but like you said, in the end, it would be so rewarding because so many
Yes.
people would be able to enjoy themselves and benefit from it, and just have a good time for like a week.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I'm even like, how do I change my career path? Like, this is something I really want to do.
Man, ugh, that would be so
Okay.
much fun.
That's all I have.
All right, well, awesome. Well, thanks for getting nerdy with us today. Have any of you listeners gone to summer camp before? Did you ever go to a nerdy one, or do you have an idea for a nerdy one? We would love to hear your thoughts on that. So hit us up on our social media, and hopefully you've been noticing that we've been doing a lot more posts lately. We are super excited to be sharing more content with you. So make sure you're checking up on our pages because we're definitely more active. All right, and with that, I'm Emily.
I'm Elisabeth.
And I'm Lindsay, and thanks for getting nerdy with us today on Beauties and Headcanons.